What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name's Kyle. Tonight, we're going to go over a CBS NFL Mock Draft here, just to kind of get us into the swing of things. And basically, it's coming sooner than we think. You know, we're only a couple months away here from the NFL Draft. We have NFL free agency happening. We're going to have NFL Combine happening. A lot of things moving, and we'll get some quarterbacks hopefully signing and maybe getting traded kind of thing. So we're going to hop into a screen share here. I wanted to show you guys, I do have a lot of NFL draft content on the fantasyfellowship.com. You guys can check that out. But we're going to go to mock draft database. And this is probably my favorite website for looking at mock drafts. And if you just, I have the link in the description if you want to follow it. But what they do is they compile a ton of different mock drafts. So like here's CBS, here's MLive, Vikings Wire, UPI, all these Bucks Wire, all these different mock drafts, and they collect the data and they're going to give you kind of like a consensus mock draft. So what we're going to do in this one is I was looking at the CBS one this morning. I like this one. I thought it was very interesting, and we'll kind of just click into it here. You can also what's cool too is like if I wanted to click on the article, I can click into there and I can go to CBS and see all the good stuff that they have there. So we'll take a look here. This one is done by Garrett Podell. This was published 9 hours ago. So he had a lot of quarterbacks in the first 10 picks here. So let's click into his mock draft and kind of just go over it. And this is a fantasy, football channel. We kind of care about those positions the most, but it's also interesting to see where defensive players and other things are going to be happening. So with his first pick here, he puts Jalen Carter, defensive lineman from Georgia. I've seen him or Will Anderson mocked at number 1. I think the Bears have a lot of thinking to do. I don't agree with the rumors of them wanting to trade Justin Fields. I think that's a mistake. Justin Fields is an absolute baller. Would not surprise me if he takes, a step like Josh Allen did or even Jalen Hurts did in year 2, technically his second year starting. So I like the Bears to stick there, take your top defensive player. If you can trade out, that's fine. But I think you're probably best off just collecting the best player in the draft this year. But where the draft gets fun, the Houston Texans at number 2, they need a quarterback. We saw last year Davis Mills took a step back. We thought he might have been a decent bridge quarterback, but it wasn't happening. Texans' worst offense in football last year. And they're going to take Bryce Young here, quarterback from Alabama. Everyone loves it. I think either way, whether it's Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, that's, it's a personal preference. Bryce Young's got more wheels, CJ Stroud a little bit more of your prototypical kind of pocket passer. I think both guys have their advantages, but with the Texans going with Bryce Young here, I think it's going to be a really fun offense for them to mold in the future. And they have another first-round draft pick coming up in a little bit. We'll get to that in a second. Number 3, you see the Cardinals taking Will Anderson Jr., the edge rusher from Alabama. Good pick there. The Cardinals have a ton of needs all across the board here. So for them to sit there at 3 and just collect one of the best defensive players, essentially you're going to get Jalen Carter or Will Anderson Jr. there. So it makes sense to just stand pat and collect one of the best defensive players in the draft. And then it gets fun with the Colts because say the Bears do end up trading their first-round pick. That means potential 2 quarterbacks you go the first 2 picks. So that could be Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, 1 and 2. The Colts, maybe they miss out on a guy like Young or CJ Stroud and end up having to pivot from there. But in this mock, they collect CJ Stroud here from Ohio State. I really like what I've seen from him. I think he's going to be a little bit different from the Ohio State quarterbacks we've seen in the past. I know Justin Fields is kind of, bucking the trend, but there really hasn't been a lot of success of Ohio State quarterbacks in the NFL the last handful of years. It's mostly been their running backs and the wide receivers. But anyways, Texans get a quarterback at 2. Colts get a quarterback at 4. AFC South, man, all of a sudden you put Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, and then whatever the Titans are going to do. That could be a really fun future for a really fun division for years to come. The Seahawks here, of course, this is the Broncos pick. They're going to take an edge rusher here, Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech. Lions are fun because they have another first-round pick, in I think it's in the middle of the first round, I think like 18 or 19. They're going to collect whatever top player here. And in this one, they get the top cornerback of their choice, Devin Witherspoon. I'm not sure he's my number 1 QB, but I do like the philosophy for them to continue. They need to draft defense. Their defense is so bad. The offense is fun. The offense is fine. Like they can put up points, They really need to start stopping other teams from scoring points. And then you see here the Raiders at number 7 taking Will Levis from Kentucky. He seems to be a guy that a lot of people either love or hate. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I think he can be a good quality quarterback here. Don't know if he's a top 10 pick, but there's been worse top 10 picks at quarterback before. So I like the Raiders, man. Like they need a quarterback. I think it really depends on their upcoming free agency. Do they trade for Aaron Rodgers? Do they get Jimmy Garoppolo for a year? Like, there's a ton of options here for the Raiders here. So maybe they don't need a quarterback with this first pick. Maybe they collect one of the best defensive players and they're happy with their quarterback situation. We'll find out more in the coming months when free agency hits. But for now, Will Levis, Kentucky quarterback, it's kind of fun. At number 8 here, I'll just kind of scroll down here. Number 8, you have Miles Murphy, defensive lineman from Clemson, going to the Falcons. Falcons have a ton of needs. They can go pretty much anywhere they want. I think the juice of this draft, if it's not quarterback early, you're looking at like an edge rusher lineman, or you're looking at a cornerback. The cornerbacks are very, very strong. They can maybe look at the offensive tackle situation here, but I think going defense makes sense for the Falcons here. And then fellow division foe, Carolina Panthers, taking Anthony Richardson from Florida. I'm not sure how I feel about Anthony Richardson yet. I don't think he's a top 10 pick. I think he's going to be a project. I don't think he's as much of a project as like a Malik Willis looked last year. I think he's a little bit more polished than Malik Willis, but there's the trend in the NFL, man, is running and rushing quarterbacks. You want these guys that can make plays with your legs, and Anthony Richardson's as good as they come in that department. So that could be a really fun offense for the Carolina Panthers as they're looking to kind of rebuild and they got the new head coach, Frank Reich. It's exciting. Maybe they get their guy here at number 9. I guess not former, but Joey Porter Jr. You guys remember Joey Porter Sr. with the linebacker for the Steelers. His son here, cornerback for Penn State, going number 10 to the Eagles, which seems weird. The Eagles have such good defensive backs. I don't know if it makes sense to me for them to take corner. Their defense is really good already. I think this is kind of like a luxury pick for them. It wouldn't surprise me to see them move. If they didn't like the pick here, makes more sense to kind of drift back. Maybe we'll see what happens there. But they get the second cornerback off the board. And then the first offensive lineman here at number 11, which is rare. Usually there's at least 1 or 2, 3 offensive linemen in the first 10 picks. Not this year. Peter Skoronski here, Northwestern, goes to Tennessee Titans. Titans just cut Robert Woods and Taylor Lewan today. So Titans, man, it's looking like a rebuild there. So grabbing another offensive lineman makes sense as they are a running team. And then I mentioned the Texans. I mean, they got their guy, Bryce Young here at number 2, and then they come back with wide receiver Quentin Johnston here from TCU. I really like Quentin Johnston. A lot of people have him as the number 1 receiver coming off the board in April, but I'm still not sold that he is the best receiver. He's a big play receiver. His tape is interesting because he's this big, fast, physical receiver that can make a lot of contested catches, but then some of his tape, he looks a little bit slower. He's a number 1 receiver, I believe. So we'll see where he goes here. They have him at number 12, the Texans. Either way, I like it. Doesn't matter what receiver the Texans take there. It could be Jordan Addison, the fun slot receiver from USC. Could be Jackson Smith and the Jigba, who I really like. And I think he might be the number 1 receiver in this class. But anyways, Texans get their quarterback and their star wide receiver. The Jets, we love the Jets and what they're doing. Paris Johnson Jr., offensive tackle from Ohio State. Makes sense. Their defense is already legit. Grabbing one of the top tackles makes a ton of sense here as they're looking to continue to be a running and defensive team. Christian Gonzalez here, cornerback for the Patriots. Makes sense. The Patriots don't really have – they got potential need at quarterback and wide receiver. But they did get kind of abused a little bit on defense. I don't really know a lot of their defensive players anymore. There's a lot of turnover post Brady here. So grabbing another cornerback, as I mentioned, a lot of good cornerbacks in this draft. So Christian Gonzalez there from Oregon. The Packers going to grab Michael Mayer from Notre Dame, the tight end. Really good tight end prospect. I don't know if I like it for Green Bay. I think they have more problems than tight end. They have the quarterback problem of, will Rodgers return, will he not? But that's covered. Jordan Love's fine. He can step up if needed. The Packers do need weapons. I mean, I'd rather see them take a Jackson Smith and the Jigba here or Jordan Addison. I think the wide receiver position, a little bit more important here. They do have Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs. But they do need another alpha wide receiver in that room if it's going to be Jordan Love, and even if it's Aaron Rodgers, you should draft him a wide receiver. So I get the Michael Mayer pick at 15. I don't love it. I think there's better tight ends in round 2 that we can get and get a little bit better value. The Commanders take Osiris Torrance here, interior offensive lineman from Florida. Makes sense. The Commanders have a lot of needs all across the board, but injecting offensive line talent makes sense as they want to be a running team. Broderick Jones here, offensive tackle for the Steelers. 100% Steelers are going best offensive line at 17th overall. It just makes too much sense. They're one of the worst offensive lines in football. And then here we go, the Lions. We saw them take a cornerback with their earlier pick. They go back to the defensive well here with Brian Breesy from Clemson here, defensive lineman. So I expect the Lions to heavily target the defensive side of the ball in this draft. Tampa Bay getting a safety, Brian Branch from Alabama, top-rated safety in the game here, or I guess in this draft. I like him a lot. I actually think he makes a lot of sense for Green Bay, who might be losing Adrian Amos, but we'll see. Either way, I like Brian Branch. Rock-solid prospect. He can come in and start for you right away. The Seahawks, they had that first-round pick earlier. They're going to go back to cornerback here, Keely Ringo. I don't know if they need cornerback. They had some decent positions, or they had some decent guys at the cornerback position last year. But again, this is a really rich first-round cornerback draft, so I like it. And then probably my favorite pick here. Again, if you've watched my dynasty content, I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is my favorite receiver in this draft class. I mean, you got former Ohio State receivers they're on the record saying Smith-Njigba is better than him or than them, and that's Chris Olave, and I can't remember the other one right now off the top of my head. But Smith-Njigba, man, he is the real deal. Put him on the Chargers. Oh my goodness, Justin Herbert, very happy with that selection if it happens. I think Smith-Njigba goes higher than 21 though, and then Jordan Addison, the really fun slot receiver, super good hands, open space. You want to get him the ball on bubble screens and slants and whatnot, and he's a terror in the open field. Jordan Addison, really fast, a little bit smaller, but you're seeing guys like Devonta Smith and Marquise Brown succeed at the next level. Jordan Addison could be the next guy among that there. So fun receiver out of USC. Back-to-back receivers here in this draft. The Vikings take Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback for Mississippi State. Makes sense. The Vikings need some cornerback help. They need more defensive help. I really like the cornerbacks in this draft. And then, assuming that the Jags don't resign Evan Ingram, Dalton Kincaid here from Utah. This dude's been rising up the boards. I think when I started logging these draft picks, so I've been logging these for like the last month or so, and I'm looking here on Mock Draft Database. He's last week when I recorded this, he was like the 34th overall prospect, and now he's creeping up into the first round. So you might see a couple tight ends there. I like him a lot. Really, really popular pick right now. You can see he's got the popular tag. We'll see. I think the Jags offense is a lot of fun. You got Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, potential fireworks there. Zay Jones, ETN, get another guy here for the future for Trevor Lawrence. And then look at this, another tight end, Darnell Washington, tight end out of Georgia, an athletic freak. Giants, they do have Daniel Bellinger, who I think can be a nice inline tight end. Good blocking tight end for them, but Darnell Washington, one of the biggest athletic specimens from tight end here. These guys are probably not going to go in the first round, but you never know. I think it's rare to see 3 tight ends go in the first round of a draft, but it's a very, very strong tight end class. I think you're going to see maybe 3 or 4 tight ends go round 2. Lucas Van Ness here, edge rusher for the Dallas Cowboys. They just continue to collect edge rushers here. And then, oh my goodness, this one would be a lot of fun. Bijan Robinson to the Buffalo Bills. Oh my goodness. Arguably like one of the best running back prospects we've seen since like Saquon Barkley, probably. They don't come, it is rare. It's rare for a guy like Bijan Robinson, and for him to be at 27, I think you're going to have teams like the Bengals wanting a running back. Even the Eagles could use a guy like Bijan. Definitely all these really good teams here are going to be licking their chops if this happens. So I like it for the Bills. I don't know if they're going to bring back Devin Singletary. They still have James Cook, which could be a little bit of annoying for Cook owners, but I like Bijan in Buffalo. A lot of fun here. And then Felix Anudike-Uzomah, edge rusher here for the Bengals. I like it. I would love the Bengals to get a running back here. Joe Mixon's not getting any younger. You could see a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs from Georgia Tech and Alabama, the running back there. You might see 2 running backs here towards the end of the first round. Nolan Smith, edge rusher for the Saints. Uh, Kalijah Cansey, defensive lineman from Pittsburgh, going to the Eagles. Eagles are an embarrassment of riches. They can do whatever they want at this point. Just pick the best player. That defensive line, though, I mean, looking for guys that can rotate in with Fletcher Cox and some of the other rushers that they have there makes sense. And then this guy, really smart mock here. Zay Flowers from Boston College, one of my favorite receivers in the draft. And I think a lot of people are starting to come around to the idea that he's really freaking good. He kind of reminds me of like a Robert Woods, where he can be a number one receiver. I think he's a really good compliment. But man, you put any receiver with the Chiefs, and you're going to get the best out of them paired with Patrick Mahomes. So I like it a lot. Zay Flowers, another one of those guys that is rising up the draft boards right now. Like maybe a month ago, he was wide receiver 7 or 8 on the board, and now he's a first round wide receiver here. So you have a really fun mock draft here. Wide receiver rich, cornerback rich. You got 4 potential first round top 10 quarterbacks. A lot of fun here. And then we didn't even get to like Jalen Hyatt, Jahmyr Gibbs. Really fun offensive pieces here. So I'm going to continue to let me know what you guys think of this video, because I want to continue to just highlight more mock drafts. And again, it's mock draft database. If you guys want to go to it and just start looking at some of those other mock drafts, I mean, they upload mocks like daily, so you guys can click through them. And there's mocks with trades and things like that. Otherwise, you can just simply look at the consensus big boards. You can look at consensus mock drafts, a bunch of other tools here. Really fantastic website. So that's going to do it for this video, CBS Mock Draft. Thank you guys for hanging tight and watching with me. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you're new, and let me know what do you guys think of this upcoming draft. Do you guys like some of the picks that guy made in his mock draft? We'll do one of my mock drafts, as I'm probably going to wait till the end of March to start doing mock drafts, because I want more data. And at this point, mock drafts is just a dartboard. Doesn't really matter what you put down. It's just kind of fun to look at. So, but anyways, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you guys in a future video. Peace.